Okay, so today what we're going to be learning about are transversals and the angles that they create. Okay, it's important for us first to understand what a transversal is. Okay, so transversal, this is one of your key words. It's a vocabulary word. It will definitely be on a quiz or on a test, so we're going to talk about what a transversal is right now. Okay, so I'm going to write it down over here. And we're going to define what that is. Okay, so a transversal is a line that intersects with two or more other lines. Is that better? Okay, then move up front. Is that better? Okay. All right. Okay. So it's a line that intersects with two or more other lines. That's like the definition, okay, that you guys probably want to put to memory. Okay. And to give you an example of what a transversal is, in this picture, this line right here that I'm highlighting, line P, this would be your transversal, okay? Because that is the line that's intersecting or crossing with two other lines, okay? If you look at R is not a transversal because R is only crossing with one other line, right? Q is only crossing with one line, but P is crossing with two. Does that make sense? Now, sometimes we can have a transversal cross with two lines or three lines or four lines or multiple lines. Okay, it just has to come in contact with at least two other lines to be called a transversal. Okay? Now, when we have a transversal, okay, and it's intersecting with at least two other lines, some special types of angles are created. Okay? And we have some names for these angles so that we can refer to them. So the first type of angle that we're going to talk about are exterior angles, okay? So, like if I said, for example, I'm getting the exterior of my house painted, what would I mean? What part of my house am I getting painted? The outside, right? So exterior means outside. Now, when I'm thinking of all of these angles that are created here, between these two lines, there's some angles that are inside. These are the inside angles, right? But if I cover those up, what's left, these are all the outside angles. So what angles are outside? 1, 2, 7, 8. Okay, so examples of exterior angles in this picture are 1, 2, 7, and 8. Okay, now, some students were like, oh, so Ms. Miller, we just need to memorize like what numbers? No, you need to memorize the positioning, not the numbers. Because in a different drawing, these might not be numbered the same. It might be numbered 12, 13, 14, 15, right? So we're not memorizing the numbers here. We just want to have the concept of where the position of the outside angles are. Does that make sense? So they're outside the lines, okay? All right, so if exterior means outside, what does interior mean? Inside, right? Okay, so we're going to take a look at the inside angles. So interior meaning inside of the two lines that are being intersected. Okay, and so I can cover up the outside angles. And now hopefully you guys can see where the inside angles are. So what angles are the inside angles? 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are all examples of interior angles. Okay? All right. So now, we classify the interior angles. We have a couple different ways we could classify them, okay? The first way we can classify them is if they are considered consecutive, okay? So this key word here, consecutive, What this means is that the angles are on the same side, okay? They're consecutive interior, so that means same side inside, okay? So this word consecutive, when you see this, this means same side. That's what you want to think of, okay? Now, if we're looking at angles that are on the same side inside, I'm only going to be looking at interior angles, so I'm only going to be looking at those ones inside. And now when I'm saying same side, I mean same side of the transversal. Okay, so your transversal is this line right here. So which ones are on the same side of the transversal? 4 and 6. And what else? 3 and 5. So 4 and 6 are consecutive interior angles with each other. Okay, and 3 and 5 are also consecutive interior with each other. Okay, so we're going to say angles 3 and 5, or angles 4 and 6. And usually when we refer to consecutive interior angles, we're talking about a pair of angles because related to each other, that pair is on the same side and they're both inside. Okay? Okay, so let's take a look at the next one. The next one is alternate interior angles. So again, these are angles that are on the inside, but this time they are alternate. Now, what does that word alternate mean? Okay, if I'm alternating, I'm kind of like switching, right? So I'm doing like in math, we say alternate means opposite, okay? Alright, so if I'm looking at my interior angles and I'm looking at ones on the opposite sides, let me cover up the exterior ones so we're only looking at the interior ones. Now, some students, there's a little confusion on which ones are actually considered opposites here. In the last class they said, oh, 3 and 4, these are on opposite sides of the transversal. Okay, true, they are on different sides. Okay, but these already have a name for this angle pair. Do you guys remember what two angles that are adjacent, sharing a common side, and make a straight line, making 180 degrees are called? They're supplementary, but they have another name. Linear pair, right? So 3 and 4 are a linear pair. We wouldn't call these alternate interior angles, okay? Because they already have a name. That name is linear pair. What I would call an alternate interior angle with 3 is 6. These are on opposite sides of the transversal. Does that make sense? Okay, so what other two are alternate interior angles to each other? 4 and 5, okay? So we're going to go ahead and write those down. So we said angles 3 and angle 6, or angle 4 and angle 5. Okay? Does that make sense there, how we got that? Okay. Alright. So next, let's talk about alternate exterior angles. Okay? So alternate exterior. Now, you guys already know what exterior means, right? Exterior means outside. But alternate, what does that mean? We just talked about it. It means switching or like opposite, right? Okay. Alright, so let's take a look at our diagram. Okay, and if I'm talking about the exterior angles, I'm going to cover up the ones inside. I'm not going to look at those. Okay, so I'm covering those ones up. Now, which ones are on opposite sides? 1 and 8. What else? 2 and 7. Now, would I say 1 and 2 are alternate exterior? I know they're on opposite sides, but what do these make already? What's the name we already know these are? Linear pair, right? So we're not going to call them alternate exterior. They're already a linear pair. So it's 1 and 8 and 2 and 7. They're almost like diagonal from each other. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go ahead and write those down for our angle pairs. We're going to have angle 1 and 8, or angles 2 and 7. Okay, for alternate exterior. Okay, so the last type we're going to talk about is corresponding. Okay, now, when you look at this definition, the math definition for corresponding angles, it says two non-adjacent angles, one on the interior, one on the exterior of the two given lines, each on the same side of the transversal. Reading that big long sentence with all those technical words kind of just makes me want to curl up in a ball and like cry, right? It's like, what are they talking about? Okay, so let me try to break this down into give you a different definition, that it's not a formal definition, but it's a way that I think you guys will understand what they are. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is redraw our picture that we have up there. Okay, here's transversal P, here's line R, and here's, oh sorry, this one was Q, right? And then here's line R. Okay, and then we had some angles, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'll give you guys a moment to redraw that. Okay. So you're just drawing what you already had up above. Okay, now, what I'd like you guys to do you guys have this drawn?
Yeah.
Okay, is when line P crosses with line Q, how many different angles are formed right here? 4. I want you to put a box around these 4 angles. Okay, now when line R crosses with line P, with transversal P, how many different angles are formed here? 4. Okay, put a box around those. Okay, so here's how I want you to think of these corresponding angles. They are angles with the same position in the boxes. Okay, so let's say, for example, that one and that one. Okay, if I'm looking at angle 4 and angle 8, they're both in the lower right corner of their box. Does that make sense? So they're the same positioning. Okay, so that's why they're called corresponding, same position. Okay, have you guys ever watched like a news channel? And like, have you ever seen how they have like the split screen where they have one like news person from LA corresponding with another news person from New York? Okay, and the people, they're called correspondents. Well, what do these two news people do? They basically do the same thing. They have the same position. They're just in different states, right? So when you think of corresponding, these angles have the same positioning, just in different locations. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So what would be the corresponding angle for angle 2?
6.
It would be angle 6, right? Both in the upper right-hand corner. What would be the corresponding angle for angle 1? 5. Okay. And then what would be the corresponding angle for angle 3? 7. Okay. So let's list those sets of corresponding angles. We had angle 1 and angle 5. We also had angle 2 with angle 6. We also had angle 3 with angle 7. And then we also had angle 4 with angle 8. Okay? So those are all our different sets of corresponding angles. Okay? Now, when we're looking at corresponding angles, the way that I know that the angles are corresponding typically is Like if I look at 4 and I look at 8, one's inside, one's outside, right? But, so that's why I know they're both not interior, and they're both not exterior, right? So they can't be any of these other ones that we talked about before from up here, right? So then I check their position. If one's inside and one's outside, I check their position, and if they're in the same position out of these boxes that I can draw, then that means they're corresponding, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to work on being able to identify what type of angles some of these angles are, okay, their angle relationship. So I want you guys right now to flip over to the back, okay? All right. Okay, so let's take a look at the back. Now, you've got a new diagram on the back with new numbers, right? So that's why I said don't memorize the numbers, because the numbers are going to change, right? You have to think about the positioning, okay? Now, when I'm looking at this diagram, what's the transversal in this diagram? Which letter line? Is it L, M, N, or P? What's the transversal? P, right? So this is your transversal here, okay? All right, now we're going to look at each angle pair, and we're going to give the specific name for the angle pair. So let's look at angle 3 and angle 5. 3 is here, 5 is here. Okay? I don't even really need to look at this part of the diagram because it's kind of irrelevant, right? Angle 3 is on line M and angle 5 is on line N. So I can kind of cover up some of the stuff that's not important. Now, how are angle 3 and angle 5 related? Are they both inside? Are they both outside? Okay, if they are both inside, they would both be in here, right? Okay, are they both outside?
No.
No. So what did we say we need to check for if they're not both inside and they're not both outside? What am I checking for? Corresponding. So if I drew a box around this one and I drew a box around these ones, are they in the same position in their box? Yeah, they're both upper left-hand corner, right? So we're going to call these ones corresponding angles. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, let's take a look at the next set. Angle 6 and angle 12. So let's see where that is. 6 is way over here. 12 is way over here. Okay? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try to see if I can get a small piece of paper and cover up some of the stuff that's not important for you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for shouting out the answer. I'm not waiting, Joseph. Punk. So let me do my paper folding. Okay. All right, so cover up the stuff that's not important, which is all the inside stuff, right? So look, 6 and 12. Are they both outside? Are they like diagonal from each other? Are they on opposite sides? Yeah, so what's that called? Joseph, now would be the appropriate time. Alternate exterior angles. Okay. All right. Okay, let's do one more together. Let's look at angle 4 and angle 8. So here's 4 and here's 8. I'm going to cover up the top part because that part's irrelevant. Okay. So, are they both inside or are they both outside? Inside. Same side or opposite sides? Opposite. So what is that called? Okay. Alternate interior, right? Because they were inside. Okay. What I would like you guys to do right now is I would like you guys to complete the rest of these in your groups. So I want you to discuss in your groups the rest of what those problems, what you think the answer is. Now, before you get going, eyes up here real quick. Pause. I know you guys are like super excited to do this right now. Okay. I want you to put a little star by letter G and letter H. Okay. So letter G and letter H, these ones are review from what we did in our last unit, like angles we learned about for our last test. So think about the types of angles we learned about. What are some types of angles we learned about for our last test? Congruent angles. What else? Vertical angles. What else? Supplementary. What else? Linear pair, right? So these two are not the new types we learned about. You need to think back to like review something we learned before, and that's for these, okay? All right, so go ahead and work through these. Stop when you get here. I do not want you guys to go past that point right now, okay? Just stop there and wait, okay? And then we'll check your work together. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and check your work, okay? Angle 2 and angle 3, are they outside or are they inside? Inside. Same side or opposite sides? Same. So that means they are consecutive interior. How many of you guys got that right? Okay, good. Okay, next one, 8 and 12. 8 and 12. Okay, if I'm looking at these, I can kind of cover up maybe some of this part. This one is inside, right? But this one's outside. So what is that when one's inside and one's outside? What do I want to check for? Corresponding. If I draw a box here and I draw a box here, are they both in the upper right corner? Yeah, okay. So how many of you got corresponding on that one? Okay, nice. All right, let's look at letter F, 5 and 9. They're both inside. Are they same side or are they opposite side? Opposite, so that means they're alternate. Okay, alternate interior, because they were inside. Okay, here was the trick question, 4 and 10. Okay, so I want you guys to look, like if I redraw that one, okay, here's 4, here's 10. What kind of angles are those? Vertical, good, okay. Some of you were telling me they were congruent. That's true. They are congruent, okay? But specifically, they are congruent because they're vertical, okay? So we would write vertical for the answer there, okay? All right, next, 6 and 7. Okay, what did you guys write down for these two? Linear pair. How many of you wrote down adjacent? Okay, they are adjacent, because the linear pair is always adjacent, but linear pair is a more specific name. Okay, so that's the most specific way we could label them, so let's call them a linear pair. Okay? All right, let's take a look at this next section. Okay? On this next part, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and name the transversal that forms each pair of angles. Then we're going to identify the name for the angle pair. So I'll do a couple with you guys, okay? So angle 4 and angle 10. Here's angle 4, here's angle 10. The transversal is the line that they're both touching. Are they both touching J? Are they both touching K? Are they both touching G? Yes, okay. So, first, we're going to say transversal G is the one they're both touching. Okay, now let's look at what kind of angles they are. So since they're touching transversal G, I'm going to block out this other part because that's kind of not important information over there, okay? So now I'm going to look at 4 and 10. Are they on the inside of these lines or on the outside? Inside, okay. Same side or alternate sides? Okay, so alternate what? Interior. Okay. All right. Let's skip down to letter F, the last one, okay? So letter F, it's angle 6 and angle 14. Those are over here. What line are both of those touching? They're both touching H, okay? So H is the transversal. Okay, and now let's cover up the unnecessary info. So I believe that whole part's unnecessary. Okay, and let's look at them. 6 and 14. Are they both inside? No. Are they both outside? No, one's inside and one's outside. So if we drew a box, would they be in same position in the box? Yeah, okay, so what kind of angle is that? Corresponding. Okay, what I'd like you guys to do is work on finishing these other ones that we didn't do in your groups right now, okay? Here, please. Okay, let's check and see how you guys did. Okay, so 2 and 12. Okay, what transversal are those on? G. Okay, so it was transversal G. Okay, what kind of angles did you guys think they were? Alternate exterior. Good. Okay. They are on opposite sides. They are both on the outside. Okay. All right. Angles 7 and 3. 7 and 3. Okay, transversal J. All right, and then what did you guys say? Corresponding. Yes, they're same position. Okay. All right, next, angles 13 and 10. So that's those two. What's the transversal? Okay. Okay, and what did you guys say for them? Okay, consecutive interior, that's what I'm hearing. Okay, that means same side inside. So yeah, that's correct, okay? Consecutive interior. All right. Okay, last, we have angles 8 and 14. Okay, what's your transversal there? H, okay? And what kind of angles were those? Okay, alternate interior. All right, how did you guys do?
I did kind of.
All right, good to know. Okay. All right. Okay.